Bill Maher applauded California Governor Gavin Newsom's trolling of President Trump. Take a look.
Gavin Newsom is now trolling Trump. I've never seen a Democrat do this. I think it's very funny. Can you show some of the Newsom tweets that he's been putting out there? Okay, he's imitating Trump's exact style. I mean, I feel like Gavin has grasped the essential thing about American culture in this day and age. Don't try to outsmart people. You have to outstupid them.
Newsom is going beyond just stealing Trump's social-style media posts. He's jacking POTUS's merch, too. In Trump-like fashion, Newsom introduced the swag, writing, "The Patriot Shop is now open. It includes mugs, t-shirts, the quintessential red hat reading, quote, Newsom was right about everything," mirroring a MAGA hat Trump recently sported in the Oval Office. Wow. Newsom even sold Bibles for $100 a pop. They're already listed as being sold out. I mean, like, in one way, I don't know if it's a long-term political solution. In the other way, I'm with Bill Maher that, like, not everyone I read of those tweets trolling Trump is funny, but like the first time I read it with the like, "Thanks for your attention to this matter," I did chuckle. I don't know if that means anything. Are you less amused? Do you have a "I'm less amused" face?
No, I'm not particularly amused, but I don't have any problem with it.
You're appropriately amused.
I'm amused by, and the conservatives who are like, "Oh, this is unbecoming of a governor. This isn't just." That is the funny part. It's like, okay, I don't know how you can possibly, with a straight face, say
doesn't
that.
befit the office of the presidency, Robbie.
Right, exactly. No, we're well past that. He can do whatever he wants. I guess it's kind of. I mean, it points to the fact that Trump's manner of writing and speaking has its own cadence.
Yes.
And some impressions of Trump are lazier than others, and you're right that Newsom has it down pretty well. The style of writing is with the punctuation and the quotes.
Weird quotation.
It's being done correctly. From like this is how if you like he went through a course. He was taught, and he did it. He's doing it well. So I appreciate that. I don't know that it makes him. I guess it makes liberals happy because they just want we want you to fight against Trump, even though that word "fight against Trump" has no meaning and no definition.
Well, and fight on social media against Trump has even less impact, in my opinion. Like
rebellion ever. But
if
it makes liberals happy, I guess he should do it because he wants to get the nomination, and he might very well get the nomination.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is true that we live in an attention economy. Right, and this is, in particular, our political world, it functions on attention economy. Trump gets that. I think Newsom has gotten attention for this. So I actually think it's probably good. It's the whole, like, all press is good press. At the same time, when people say, the base loves this, I'm like, okay, the very online left base does love this because anything that makes Trump look stupid, they love. But like the real base in terms of how you win a Democratic presidential nomination, Joe Biden proved this, Barack Obama proved this, the way that you win a Democratic presidential nomination, in truth, is black voters in the South. And in particular, older black women in the South, because South Carolina is super important, always has been, will be again in 2028. And then Super Tuesday, which is all southern states, and in a Democratic primary dominated by African-American votes. I'm not saying there are no older black ladies who are watching, like reading his tweets and be like, I'm sure there are. But like, it's not not all of them, and it's the base of the Democratic Party. Like the online base is one thing, the actual voting base is another thing. I think.
I see.
So it's like I don't know how much. Somebody said, "Does this make Newsom the front runner?" I'm like, the tweets.
Yeah.
Like it's like a nice thing, but like you're not going to get elected president just because. Even Donald Trump didn't, even though he said Twitter mattered. It can matter, but you're not going to elect it just because.
I mean, I think he's in the top 3 candidates by default because there's no absolutely obvious next person, and there's a lot of people interested in running, and he has more name recognition. He's done some things right. I don't want to be unfair to him. I don't want to be partisan about it.
I think he's had a very good 2025. Right. I think if you had to say who's the leader of the Democratic Party right now, I think most people would probably say Newsom, and that's good for Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And he's actually done a good job introducing himself to conservatives with that podcast he's been doing.
I know.
That it was very, very interesting.
Smart strategically. I think he's actually been very smart with all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll work. It doesn't mean he's going to be the nominee, but it's 3 years ago way.
Now, the FBI raid on Friday on former National Security Advisor John Bolton's home has many former Trump officials asking, will I be next? Now, one former DHS official seems to think that might be the case.
Miles Taylor, a former deputy chief of staff at DHS during Trump's first term, was asked about the raid on Bolton's house on MSNBC. Take a listen.
How concerned are you that you could be next? Your home could be next.
Yeah, we expect it. I mean, really, we expect it. And that's what is so surreal about this. I mean, when my wife and I woke up and saw the news, she basically said to me, it's coming.
Now, Miles Taylor, you may remember, was behind the eye-catching anonymous 2018 New York Times op-ed entitled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration." I do remember that. A year later, he followed it up with an anonymously, easy for me to say, published book titled A Warning. He says that put him on the president's blacklist, and this raid proves Trump is out for revenge.
We have thought for years that Donald Trump, if he came back to power, would do something like this. To me, the Bolton raid was actually one of the biggest moments of this presidency because it showed that all the years of talking about how Trump would use the FBI as his foot soldiers to go after his enemies wasn't bluster, wasn't hyperbole. It is now very, very real.
Meanwhile, the president said Friday he was not told about the raid on Bolton's home ahead of time, but the Washington Post reports Trump was growing angry with Bolton in the days leading up to the raid. Allegedly, he was growing frustrated with his former national security advisor's criticism ahead of the meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this month. Bolton told The Atlantic, "Putin has already won. He is the leader of a rogue state. He'll get a picture on U.S. soil with the President of the United States." That did prompt Trump to fire off this post on Truth Social. "Very unfair media is at work on my meeting with Putin," constantly quoting fired losers and really dumb people like John Bolton, who just said that even though the meeting is on American soil, Putin has already won. What's that all we're talking about? We are winning on everything. The fake news is working overtime.
I'll admit I was hoping Robbie did his Trump impersonation there, but he didn't. Meantime, J.D. Vance defended the raid of Bolton's home and office on Meet the Press this weekend.
This is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here. And that's as it should be.
So, I don't agree with John Bolton's views. He's a voice for more military engagement. I think he's wrong on policy. I think he should be afforded every presumption of innocence like any other American. And if this was a wrongful action that's not based in him having stored documents or whatever it is, then he should be fully exonerated. It should proceed no further and he should get an apology. But I obviously can't take the position, and nor does the mainstream media, that no one should ever have their property raided over classified. That's what they did to Trump.
Right.
That's what they did to Trump.
Now,
How do you get around that?
I would argue that...
I don't know if it's political. Might be. I just don't know.
Right. Well, we don't know enough yet. I struggle with this. I'm of two minds of this. On the one hand, I do think that probably, and I'm not saying this is right, probably if you're like a senior administration official, just based on the last 10 years or so, if they went looking in your house, you probably have a classified document or two. Sure. Now, that's more of an
Pence
issue.
had it, Biden had it.
Right. Trump
They're
certainly had
classifying
it.
these things in a way that makes it too
say,
easy for them all to commit crimes.
Exactly. I was going to say, that's really a classification issue more than it's like, ooh, let me take all this classified stuff home, right? But so it's kind of like, are you looking for a crime? And how big of a crime is it if John Bolton has one or two documents that you're like, well, this is classified, but like, it's not a big deal. At the same time, we don't know. Yeah. And I think do I think that Donald Trump never said, we got to get that Bolton guy. I'm not saying he said, like, we should raid his house, but, like, the idea that Donald Trump had no clue about this or hadn't set the pretense for it. I mean, come on, like, this is the guy who he openly has said the Department of Justice and the FBI should be more politicized. They should do his bidding more. He got rid of Jeff Sessions the day after the 2018 midterm election because Jeff Sessions wasn't loyal enough to him in Trump's mind. He put people in place. Pam Bondi at AG. Kash Patel at FBI, because they would do what he wants. So I don't think we should be surprised at this. I also don't think we should jump to the conclusion, well, Bolton's obviously innocent and this is a political targeting.
Right. Because we like it. He's their friend, even though he's an advocate for like World War III. All the mainstream progressive people love him because he doesn't like Trump.
Right. I mean, I'm
totally divorced from
I don't know. Like, yes, I see the argument of like, yes, he is one of Donald Trump's most prominent critics. He served in the administration. He wrote, look, this goes back to, for people who know the history, the Trump administration tried to stop him from writing his book called The Room Where It Happened. They tried to stop him from getting profits off of that.
Not aged well.
No. Oh, man.
Cringe.
Yes, awkward. Awkward at the time, even more awkward now. So this is like a long-running fight between them. I'm fine to let it play out. I think that so much of what you think about the story is what you come into it with. If you think Donald Trump is just making up crimes and trying to, scare people who are critics of him, then you're like, this is the start of martial law. Mm-hmm. If you think, well, John Bolton's a bad guy and, he probably did retain stuff, let's just see it play out, you're like, good, we should be doing this. I often feel this way. I kind of land between those two things. Like, how could anyone who I don't know what's in John Bolton's home. Two judges apparently signed warrants to go in and raid the home. Like, I guess you could say, well, they're just Trump judges, and it is a low bar. It is a low bar. But, like, it's not just Donald Trump, like, in there bashing the door down. There's some a patina of legal okay on this. So, don't know. I hate to say let's see how it plays out.
I certainly come away convinced that it's clearly too easy to inadvertently keep possession of classified documents if you're a political figure, and we need some kind of reform there. And people have been prosecuted for this, lowly people who did it inadvertently and are sitting in prison, and I think that's probably a bad thing. The reason, Trump has tried to make sure that in the second go-round, his second term, everyone around him is absolutely loyal is because of people like Miles Taylor, who bragged in the first administration of that he was going to try to subvert the president's agenda from within. He's going on TV now almost saying, like, look at me, give me attention, I want to be, he doesn't want to be, I'm sure, rated, but like, remember me? I
struggle because
I think that's what he's doing.
I just like, for most of these people, Trump picked these people. I mean, this is the problem I have. It's like, we're not talking about Jerome Powell, but this is the problem I have with Jerome Powell. It's like, Trump picked Jerome Powell. Trump picked John Bolton. Yeah. Now, you could say like, I was sold the bill of goods, but there's enough people that it's like, these are not like Biden holdovers. No one thinks John Bolton is a liberal. Yeah. So,
Well, he is now in the extent that you're just totally defined by your opposition or your support for Trump.
He is in the anti. I don't know. I think it's very hard to separate out lots of people have made a living and continue to make a very good living in the I am a high-profile critic of Donald Trump. How much of that is they are simply guided by belief and they think he is dangerous to democracy, and how much are they guided by their bottom line? My guess is it's probably a little bit of both.
I mean, I think John Bolton is sincerely guided by he disagrees with Donald Trump on foreign policy because Donald Trump has been a more restrained voice on the foreign policy stage,
and Vance,
wanting to not get involved in Vance too, conflict everywhere, arranging for the Afghanistan withdrawal, wanting to normalize relationship with the new Syrian regime, wanting to have this peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, Azerbaijan and Armenia, whereas Bolton is like, Iran, let's go to war. North Korea, let's go to war. I believe he's advocated for much direct military confrontations with those two nations. So that's very different. So, that doesn't mean he belongs in prison or he did anything wrong, and you should be free to criticize Trump and not have your home raided because of it. So
and that's the thing that I keep coming back to. Both of those things are true, what you just said. It's like like if he's innocent, then this is political targeting to make his life uncomfortable. The problem is we have now disqualified all the referees, and so it's like we're never going to really be able to find out if he is innocent or not. I don't think.
That's true.
No, any verdict will be seen as questionable.
People will not broadly accept it either way. They'll accept
one way
it
or the
based
other
on their previous politics, yes. Minneapolis is reeling this morning after police say that a shooter opened fire on a church located on the campus of Minnesota's Annunciation Catholic School yesterday. Now, nearly 200 children were inside attending Mass during the first week of school.
police say the suspect, 23-year-old Robin Westman, opened fire through the windows of the school before turning the gun on themselves. 2 children were killed in the assault and 17 other people were injured.
In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance both took to social media, each writing in part, "Please join me in praying for everyone involved, and also join all of us in prayers for the victim."
However, that response from the President and Vice President, among many others in the public eye, didn't sit well with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who said this at a news conference following the shooting.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
MSNBC host and former Biden press secretary Jen Psaki echoed Mayor Frey, writing on X, "Prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers do not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayer does not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers."
That dismissal of thoughts and prayers from Frey and Psaki struck a chord with CNN contributor Scott Jennings. He was not happy about it. Take a listen.
I think it's wrong, frankly, to vilify or attack people of faith. You said thoughts and prayers ring hollow. I think thoughts and prayers are the most solid on days of tragedy for people who live their faith every day. And I think on a day like today, particularly in a church community, there are probably people praying harder for comfort today than they have ever prayed in their life.
Meanwhile, many on the right are drawing attention to the alleged transgender identity of the shooter and an alleged connection between violence and the transgender community. Take a listen to what Fox News' Jesse Waters had to say.
Just 2 years ago, another trans 20-something walked into a Christian school in Nashville with a rifle and shot 3 kids and 3 adults. They buried the manifesto and locked down the case. We've seen trans shootings in Colorado and in Maryland. They even shot up an ICE facility in Texas. And it seems like half of Antifa's trans. A couple of they-thems just got popped for firebombing Teslas.
Mayor Frey had something to say about that too. Take a listen.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity. We should not be operating out of a place of hate for anyone. We should be operating from a place of love for our kids.
So a lot of different aspects of this actually to discuss. Terrible tragedy, very, very sad.
Absolutely.
Awful when this occurs. I don't think, I think Psaki and Frey missed the mark and certainly came off as demonizing prayer or religion or the things that religious people use to comfort themselves. The fact that they were, Frey in particular seemed to think there was some tension between that they were praying and like, oh, that did no good because you were shot. That is, I think, was off-putting to many people and reflects him not understanding religion very well himself and Psaki as well. It was very tone-deaf to me. I understand that some progressives have the frustration that that's all, because I know progressives want more decisive action, for instance, on gun control, and that the thoughts and prayers is like in lieu of doing something actionable. But there are many religious people in this country who think, how does one that it is a way of showing support and just kindness to people affected by tragedy, and these are not really intention?
I don't see what Psaki and Frey say in the same light as that.
Really?
I think it is the objection to the phrase thoughts and prayers being used as a kind of band-aid or as something that is used to make people feel that they're saying the right thing and as a way that short-circuits any kind of action, particularly on gun control. I don't take it actually as mocking people who are praying. I take it as a critique of politicians in particular who use that phrase and never, as you put it, take any other action.
Yeah, well, what action should be taken is obviously a measure of debate. I think I'm learning that the guns were legally purchased.
They were, I believe, yes.
This person doesn't have any prior
criminal
issue, so then you have to get at what steps could have even reasonably been taken. This person is a transgender individual, previously had a male name, is biologically male, changed their name to the female name. Actually there's a lot of writings this person has that are now being made available, that are being sifted through. The shooter in one of and used like a kind of encryption or a
Cyrillic alphabet, I believe. Yeah.
So that's being, translated right now, and actually did express some regrets about the transition at one point. Said does not actually feel like a female or doesn't think they should have done it. A lot of views all over the place. The weapons themselves had kill Trump, hating Jews, names of other school shooters, school shooting victims written in the...
a reference to a band that one of the Columbine shooters had also referenced, all this kind of stuff.
Honestly, so we're looking, motivation, ideology, and some people say, well, the New York Times or some journalistic outlet said, well, we don't know what the motivation is, and people on the right saying, what do you mean? It's obvious. They hated religion. They attacked a school they had gone to. They hate religious people. It's at least a little bit more complicated than that.
Right.
Honestly, in reading so far what we understand of this person's thinking, what sticks out to me is that they seek attention, really. They like their ideology is idolizing school shooters. And the kind of, from their perspective, glory and attention that gives you. That's a really hard thing to, get out of society, to tamp down that impulse. Really, I think the thing we could do that would most help that would be to not do exactly what we're doing now, and we're complicit in it. The attention and the all over the news, and this person wanted all of their thoughts to be read and to be talked about on the news and to be remembered. But I don't know how we have a...
Yeah,
people are interested. People want to know. I'm not for censorship. I'm not for covering up facts.
Well, and also, I take the point about often shooters wanting attention, but we just ignore people being shot dead. Like, we can't do that, obviously. So there's that element of it. Two things in relation to the trans issue. I do think it's pretty offensive, the kind of the Fox clip we played and so forth. Look, correlation is not causation, right? That is not there is no evidence that trans people are inherently more inclined toward acts of violence. We don't, that's just, it is an element that has occurred here. And I mean, your point generally is that there is a tendency at these moments to over-ascribe political or identity motivation to people whose motivations are often, I would say, incoherent, which seems to be the case here.
Absolutely agree on that. But look, if it is the case that trans people are wildly overrepresented in public gun shooting attacks, and now I don't know if this doesn't sound like, I don't know what extent this person was on medicine having to do with transitioning, if there's some commonality in antidepressants or other aspects of the treatment. I mean, I certainly would not close off that inquiry entirely. Trans people are such a small sliver of the population, and actually mass shootings, contrary to what is often reported, are very rare. Shootings are not rare. Shootings at school, a gun goes off in the parking lot of the school. That happens constantly, but someone actually taking weapons and trying to gun down people does not happen very often. So if even a small number of those are trans people are like .something% of the population.
Well, I mean, it depends. On the school shootings point, I mean, it depends what you mean by rare. I think people can consult for themselves. The AP, I think, has a list of numerous school shootings, which, tragically tend to only attract real attention if you get up into 5-10 people killed, as opposed to 1, 2, or 3 people killed. And in relation to the school shootings, the examples being cited are 2, really, this and the Nashville instance.
Right. So, but there's only been like a dozen of these in the last 80 years. So if it's 2 out of that,
I think there's been more than a dozen school shootings in the last 80 years.
No, it's not, because the things that get counted as school shootings count any time a gun goes off, which is usually Again, I'm not saying this is good. Like somebody gets shot in a dispute between kids on a sports team or on school property or by people not related to the school who are just in school property. That's what counts as a school shooting. The armed gunmen terrorizing the school thing, that is very, very rare. It doesn't happen all that often. It's a conflation that people miss in the media all the time.
I mean, I'm looking through a list here which has numerous school shootings with people being killed in it. But
I'm not saying no one is being killed, but it is not someone writes a manifesto and starts shooting at random at people in the school. That's going to be a dispute between, just the kind of violence that occurs in our cities, somebody gets shot in cities for various reasons. It's not a planned, deranged person doing this kind of thing that we saw. That does not happen very often. Some new developments in the story of Ghislaine Abrego Garcia. ICE detained the El Salvador native on Monday, with DHS saying that they do plan to deport him to the East African country of Uganda. These plans were blocked by a judge who says the administration is absolutely forbidden from deporting him until a hearing can be held on his deportation challenge. Now, in a post on X, the Department of Homeland Security said, quote, "Sanctuary politicians and the fake news won't tell you the truth about Ghislaine Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, wife beater, child predator, and criminal illegal alien, but we will."
The department followed that up with a series of posts detailing its allegations against Abrego Garcia, including that he has ties to the notorious MS-13 gang. Abrego Garcia has repeatedly denied these allegations, and some courts have said there is insufficient evidence linking him to the gang. Meanwhile, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen came to his defense after the news broke. He writes, "Trump's cronies keep lying about his case and are engaged in a malicious abuse of power to try to deport him to Uganda. As I told Ghislaine, I won't stop fighting for justice and due process for all."
Abrego Garcia was wrongfully deported to El Salvador in March, but the Trump administration later said it was an administrative error and did return him to the U.S. in June. Now the DHS wants to send him to Uganda, which is one of several countries the U.S. has struck a deal with to send the deportees to. Here's what Attorney General Pam Bondi had to say about it.
We've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison.
All right, Niall. Well, what's the problem? I was assured that the issue was just that he'd been sent to that prison in El Salvador. When the judge said he can't send him to El Salvador, he can send him somewhere else. We litigated his immigration status and a whole host of other things. Now they want to send him to Uganda, not to El Salvador, to Uganda. And I thought that was all fine, but I'm still seeing everybody worked up about it.
So, first of all, the initial problem was indeed that they sent him to El Salvador illegally. A judge had ordered that,
and they fixed it.
That they admitted it belatedly. They initially said, we can't get him back. Sorry about that. That's just too bad. Then all of a sudden we could get him back. And the reason we could get him back was because he was to be charged with these serious offences of smuggling, and justice must be done there. Now it turns out that justice doesn't necessarily need to be done there, because if they deport him to Uganda, they will drop or cease to have the criminal case against him. The thing that I think maybe we might share some concerns about here is the allegation by Abrego Garcia's lawyers that they have used the word coerce. I think we mentioned it in the introduction. Their argument is that he was offered a deal where if he pleaded guilty, he would go to Costa Rica, but if he pleaded not guilty, he would be sent to Uganda. Now, does that not, at least with your libertarian instincts, is that not a nefarious use of state power to say to someone, we'll literally send you to different sides of the world depending on how you plead in a criminal case?
I mean, sure, nefarious, completely run-of-the-mill for the justice system, right? I mean, this is how they induce people to plead guilty all the time, because plead guilty and get a reduced sentence or maybe a time served or whatever, or risk trial and you could get 20 years, which is why in, I think, federal jurisdictions, people end up pleading guilty before the end of the trial in like upwards of 90% of cases. But the legal issue here is that his rights are less clear-cut because he doesn't have a right to remain in the country. He has due process rights against prosecution, but they can, and a judge has said that he can be sent out of, he is eligible to be deported from this country because he's not an American citizen. Not all of those statements about him are as well-founded as others. His membership in a gang has been at least... The evidence for that has been presented, and there was a judge who took it seriously. I don't know about the smuggling stuff. I'm just not up to date on that. There was a restraining order sought against him by his wife at one point. So anyway, they want to get him out of the country. He's eligible to be gotten out of the country, just not eligible to go to El Salvador. Is it a nefarious is the word you used? Sure, a tactic that law enforcement uses to try to get you to plead guilty to Costa Rica or Uganda, but he doesn't have, I don't know what to say, he doesn't have the right to remain here, right? You concede that he's not. Yes. There is nothing he points to say I get to stay on America. I'm a Maryland man. Well, you're a native of El Salvador who entered the country illegally, who has caused enough consternation for law enforcement. Again, he's not the hairdresser or some old lady who's just... He's had encounters with law enforcement that have some legitimate basis, so I don't know what else there is to say at this point.
So there are two...
He's going to go?
There are two separate issues. He did enter the country illegally, and he was indeed eligible for deportation. Now, we've just talked about the El Salvador element of it. The thing that I think people are protesting about is the idea that he is subject to vindictive treatment by the government. So it is not merely a case of this guy's in the country illegally and we're going to remove him. It is seeking to make a sort of cause célèbre out of his case and taking actions like the Uganda or Costa Rica thing, which are not run-of-the-mill in these manifestations. It is run-of-the-mill that people are offered plea deals, a process about which I have some skepticism actually, but they are not normally offered, well, we're going to send you to Africa if you don't plead guilty. And in relation to the charges against him, there is certainly the suspicion, I would say, in more liberal circles that the charges are either overcharged or entirely trumped up because some of the evidence against him seems so thin. Without getting too deep into the weeds of it, there's one instance where an informant against him never mentions in 3 successive interviews the gang affiliation, then allegedly mentions it in a 4th interview, of which the law enforcement agent interviewing this informant has no contemporaneous notes at all that was even said. So there are real doubts about the case against him, and therefore doubts about whether it is an attempt to not merely remove someone who is an illegal immigrant, but to make an example of someone against whom the administration erred in the first place.
Right, but there is no dispute over whether he is an illegal immigrant.
Correct.
And I mean, the position of some people in the Trump administration is that everyone who is here illegally is, well, they are. There's no dispute over whether they're eligible for deportation, and that effort and resources will be put toward deporting every one of them. Now, that's not what I want, but to even be able to make the conversation, I think, to MAGA that there should be some selectivity about who gets deported, I think sometimes you just have to concede, especially in this case, I would just fold and say he should be deported because it is ambiguous enough, or, I mean, I don't mean to dispute your validity of the fact, the informant came back with it later. I know that initial judge looked at it and took what the informant had to say seriously. Look, if he's truly the most innocent little angel who has ever existed and just happens to be an illegal immigrant, then this is an unfortunate situation for him, surely. I don't know whether that's the case, but he's going to be deported one way or the other.
Right, yeah, I mean, he probably is in the end. I mean, look, I am not arguing against his eligibility for deportation. He is eligible to be deported. The question is whether the administration is engaging in gratuitously vindictive treatment of him. Yeah. And I think there's a significant amount of evidence that they
I'm sure being deported to Costa Rica is far nicer than being deported to Uganda. I'm not sure that is, though. So you characterize that as real. It's unique, but it's the choice between, 18 months in prison or 20 years in prison is also a pretty steep difference that you're typically offered. I would rather have the Uganda and Costa Rica choice than that, I think.
Fair enough. That's a fair point.
The Trump administration has released the court interview transcripts with longtime Jeffrey Epstein confidant Ghislaine Maxwell, and boy, is there a lot to unpack. One of the biggest takeaways, Maxwell believes that Epstein did not kill himself. She says, if it is indeed murder, I believe it was an internal situation. And according to a bombshell CNN report, Ghislaine Maxwell was celebrated at a posh Clinton event and received a standing ovation that was years after the sex crimes accusations did emerge.
Some other big moments. Maxwell appeared to praise Trump and distance Trump from Epstein. The Epstein associate acknowledged the social relationship between the president and the disgraced financier, but get this, denied any connection between the president and the sex trafficking ring. She also denied Epstein victim Virginia Joffrey's claim that as a 16-year-old, she was approached by Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago and was invited to become Epstein's traveling masseuse. The woman said the two of them groomed her as a 16-year-old to perform sexual services, but Maxwell says she, quote, never recruited a masseuse from Mar-a-Lago.
As a reminder, Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence after being convicted in December 2021 of sex trafficking and conspiracy charges. The released transcripts, come as the Epstein files, has been a recent political lightning rod and has spurred an intense firestorm of uproar within the MAGA world. And I'm sure I'm going to hear people, mainstream media folks, saying, this is her just trying to get that pardon from Trump, and what she's saying is not true about him not being involved in the sex trafficking part. But of course, no one has put forth any evidence to the contrary. We all know that Trump associated with Epstein, had a fallout with him supposedly because Epstein was trying to take some of the masseuse employees, including that one, the one who was later the accuser in the Maxwell Epstein situation. At no point has it been alleged that Trump knew about any of this, the bad, gross abuse stuff, and had stopped associating with Epstein by that point. I had also said the same was true of the Clintons, although now they're suggesting that there was some.
Yeah, that is weird.
Very weird.
Yes, that's weird.
Because there are people later, like, for instance, Bill Gates, who continued to have an association with Jeffrey Epstein even after the conviction, which is real weird.
Yeah.
I'm willing to, give people the benefit of the how could you
what
know?
You didn't see, right?
But then if you're still taking this guy's phone calls after he's been to prison for sex.
I think two things can absolutely be true at the same time. Number one, Ghislaine Maxwell wants a pardon or wants her sentence to be commuted, and she's going to say whatever it takes, she thinks, to have that. And again, I'll note the interview was with the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, which I'm not sure why the Deputy Attorney General needs to go down there and interview her, but he is also Donald Trump's personal lawyer. I think that can be true, but it can also be true, your point. There's no evidence. I think that Donald Trump was involved and knew about any of this stuff. I think Trump's biggest mistake in all of this was to pretend he and Epstein never knew one another. Mm-hmm. There's ample evidence they ran in similar circles in Florida, in New York to some extent, that Trump was on his plane. I will note, the times that we know Donald Trump was on the Epstein plane, one time he was with a very young, his daughter Tiffany Trump and his wife at the time, Marla Maples. One time he was on there with Eric Trump when Eric was like 10 or something. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks anything went on in those situations. So yes, oh my gosh, Donald Trump's in the Epstein files. Well, anyone who's paying attention knew he was in the Epstein files. That is not proof of anything. Bill Clinton is in the Epstein files. I mean, and I think both of those things can be true. I kind of rolled my eyes with Ghislaine Maxwell says Donald Trump was a perfect gentleman and the greatest human that's ever lived. I mean, what's she gonna say? At the same time, it's proof of nothing. This is what I always say to people who say 2020 election was stolen. Okay, I'm not opposed to it, but you need to actually provide evidence that it was stolen. You can't just say it and then be like, there's a lot of wrongdoing. Okay, well, yes, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
People are saying there's wrongdoing.
Many people are saying it.
People are saying. Yeah.
I mean, it's not proof of anything. Just because they were friendly does not mean Donald Trump or Bill Clinton engaged in this sort of behavior. Unless and until I see proof of that, that's where I'm going to be.
It looks like Trump's conviction that this is not really a story and people on his team, his tribe, and his MAGA media movement should stop caring about it so much. I think that's going to win out. It's fading a little bit, I can tell. And, it's not good that a bunch of conservative influencers who've cared about this a lot for years are in the position of having to either criticize the administration, if not Trump himself, or look deeply hypocritical.
Yep.
So that's not good for the movement. It's a black eye, so to speak. But I think that's all it is, and it will quickly be forgotten.
I just think people, I don't know, I think it will kick around a little bit longer because Congress, I think, is going to vote on this discharge petition, and it's not going to do anything other than say DOJ should release the Epstein files. It's not like they have to now do it. I can't wait to see a bunch
of documents that we've already seen many times already.
Right. So I think it's going to linger more probably than you do. But again, I am amazed. It's like Lucy and the football.
Yeah.
Well, Democrats predicting that this is the bombshell that Donald Trump is going to. It's like, no, he's going to be in office. This isn't it. And there's not going to be one because one of the truest things the guy ever said was, I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose any support.
Yeah. Democrats, their interest in this is very sudden and very selective.
Yes.
They all grasped it immediately that, oh, wait, we can make it sound like he knows there's something really damning. We can, yeah.
And this is the thing, to your point, political fires need to be stoked to keep going. I do think there will be some more calls, and does Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, have to do some kind of press conference, or Kash Patel? I don't know about that. Last week, the DOJ turned over some of these files. We don't know what.
She's pretty discredited on the subject in the eyes of MAGA because of the whole. It's on my desk. What was on your desk?
What was it?
What was on your desk?
You said you were looking at the client list. Now the client list doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, they botched it, right? This is a political self-inflicted, my gosh, error.
Too early.
I know. But the idea that this is the thread that if you pull, it all comes. I think Democrats are still engaged in this. Like somehow Donald Trump's not going to make it through 2028. And I just don't, there's just no evidence I see. Again, I'm always open. I think we both are the same in this. We're always open. Prove to me, show me evidence that there's something really damning in here. But I am of the mind, I guess I'm cynical enough, I've been around Washington long enough, that if Donald Trump was implicated in the sexual exploitation and trafficking of young girls, that it would have come out. Someone would have leaked that somehow. Like, that is too big a bombshell that the former president, who's clearly running for president again, is litigating this case that he actually won the 2020 election. In all that time, the Biden Justice Department would never be like, hey, to a reporter, like, hey, I got something I want to tell. Like, it seems like how Washington works seems like that would not happen.
That bad at their jobs in terms of basic political undermining of Trump. It's hard to imagine.
And I love, Democrats do like to say, like, well, we don't politicize stuff. It's like, yeah, of course you do. Now, you may not do it as openly and as transparently as Donald Trump does, but there is the idea that politics, and the legal system are all these separate things that never intertwine. I mean, if you've lived in Washington and covered it for 15 minutes, you know that's not true.
They found reasons to prosecute him in multiple municipalities, multiple districts. They found there are attorneys general that tried to take him off the ballot based on various rationales. They would find reasons. They would find something if there was something.
I mean, it would have come out. Yeah. I really, truly believe that. And I know it's just if you understand how Washington works, there's no way that bombshell that the prosecutors are like, well, we'll just sit on this. Oh, Donald Trump's going to get elected president? Oh, that's fine. We have this evidence that he is, a sexual trafficker. No, I think waiting for a smoking gun on this, you're going to be waiting a long time.
I think it's becoming my generation's version of the JFK assassination.
So true.
If people believe that Johnson did it, they're going to believe it. If they believe the mafia did it, they're going to believe it. They believe Donald Trump committed sex crimes, and it's that no amount of contrary information
will prove it. Totally think that's right.